please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Back in June, I released a video on In Praise of Shadows, a content creator that had accused another of RAPE, using some rather shady tactics, information that was nonsense, and argumentation that was flawed from the premise alone. They tried their best to destroy another person, and they failed. I'll link the video I made in the pinned comment down below. Today we're going to be looking at them because they've come back with a brand new channel called In Praise of Shadows, Dark Sides. The channel was created on the 24th of October this year, and they've released one video titled Clearing the Air. At time of recording, it has 320 upvotes to 457 downvotes. It is 18 minutes long. Of this video, how much of it do you think they actually spend clearing the air, and how much do you think they spend obfuscating? If you guessed more than 15 minutes obfuscation, you are correct. So let's go through it.
Hi. I don't really know how to start this, so I guess I'm just gonna start talking, I guess. It's been a while. Hope you've been okay. I didn't want to really use a script for this video because anything that I say will be talked negatively about. And if I'd used a written response, I felt like people would be like, oh, he's just, you know, doing this for PR. You know, I didn't want it to feel like a statement that a politician would put out. I just wanted to be me talking to you, human to human.
The reason he's saying this is to set up that he can't win, which is what he would want. The issue here is, with what you did, it's not about winning, it is about redemption. If there's a way to do it, this is not how you go about it. Script or no script, it doesn't matter. What matters is you apologizing to the person you tried to destroy. I don't suppose you remember their name now, do you?
And so apologies if this is a bit rambly. This is a little different for me.
Would I be right to assume you made this in between the time it took you to also make your 5-hour video you've released on your main channel that came out 2 days ago as well? So this would serve as your way of clearing the air so everyone would go and watch your 5-hour documentary video you've put out. Small thing if you're a creator. I made this mistake once of compiling a video that ended up being over 6 hours. Don't bother, it's not worth it. Especially if you as a creator have been effectively destroyed. In this context, you, In Praise of Shadows, qualify. It was Wendigoon, by the way. The name was Wendigoon.
I was just gonna talk. And I guess I'll start with, kind of a big piece of criticism was that, like, I just sort of disappeared. And I did that kind of for 2 reasons.
Based on what we now know, you released a new video, you didn't disappear, you went to get on with a job, right? Producing your content. Which meant you could bury your head in the sand from the criticism you faced for all the dumb things you'd said, whilst using the new video as an excuse for you disappearing. The part where you said sorry should have just been the entire video, but aimed at one person. The rest of this is, well, a bit stupid really, isn't it?
One was that, of course, like, anything that I said wasn't going to help the situation that was happening. And so I just left.
Actually, I think you apologizing may well have helped, because it would have shown some remorse. Admitting guilt, admitting what you did was wrong, explaining it fully why it was wrong, not explaining why you did it in the first place, because that ends up with you then trying to justify your actions, may well have actually lent some credence to you possibly finding a way to restore your reputation that was already shattered prior to you being stupid in the first place.
And I didn't want to really talk about it, and this is the last time I'm ever going to publicly talk about the situation again. I just also felt that people would be kind of, like, annoyed if I, like, tried to, like, come back and start making things again, and just pretend like nothing ever happened.
Do you mean like the video you released 2 days ago, called The Filthy Life of John Waters? Yeah, people noticed. They noticed, and they thought, why? The problem you have is, you at this point have been gone from that channel for 6 months. You've only really come back to keep your channel in the monetization program, really, haven't you? You certainly didn't get the views you would have gotten on any of your content. And wasn't there a previous complaint within your videos about the amount you made anyway for the amount of effort you put in? Because you're a bit of a snob. And if memory serves, I had stated, get a job.
I didn't want to do that. Also, like, I don't really know how to make this video because the history of, like, YouTube apology videos is like a format that is consistently made fun of for good reason.
So naturally, you want to buck the trend by making an 18-minute video, which falls in line with all other YouTube apologies, where the video is far too long for what it needs to be, to not script, because that's organic and authentic, everyone, much like a YouTube apology, to try and stand out in some way by doing something outside the norm, in your case, going outside with some crappy little microphone, so you fall in line with the YouTube apology there, to then speak about a YouTube apology, which then would indicate this is what the video is, right? Okay, well, we're going to continue going through your video, and we're going to see if we can find the apology, because much like a YouTube apology, it's somewhere, but no one knows where.
And I'm not anti-apology at all. I'm not. It's just that, like, usually, like, someone who works on the internet will mess up and then, like, immediately will put out, like, an apology video and be like, I'm not that person anymore. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I've changed, guys.
You said like 5 times. I just wanted to point that out. I understand how others do YouTube apologies and how they go wrong, because everyone has to make a mistake at some point and correct it in some way. You didn't, and you haven't for 6 months or 4 months or however long it's been since I did that last video on you. You didn't apologize then. With time passing, that doesn't show you've learnt anything. It shows that you're willing to bury your head in the sand and hope it blows over so you can carry on as if nothing happened. I wonder if this video proves me right.
And it's complete bull. Everybody knows that it's because you're like, what do you mean you're not that person anymore? You just said that thing 2 days ago. Of course you're that person. And so, like, with my situation, I said I was going to be gone for a month. Clearly, I needed a break. I wasn't doing very well. And I ended up taking more than that because I wasn't ready to come back.
2 days ago, you released a 5-hour video, so that 1 month break was not a 1 month break. It was you knuckling down to produce this. Unless it's a re-upload of something else, but usually people put that in the description or the title, I'm inclined to believe you didn't take a break at all, which means you've not had a chance to introspect, which I doubt you know how to do in the first place because you have the attitude of somebody who is well and truly full of themselves.
And I really wanted to come back with something that showed what I could do. That showed that I would be willing to listen to criticism of me, because I always am. I always want to do better, and so I hope that the John Waters video has kind of shown that. This was kind of a wake-up call moment for me. So, that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
You still haven't said sorry. Just want to highlight it. We're not that far in, and you've still not said sorry. That's a bit tragic, although again it does fall in line with YouTube apologies. It might have been better if you pulled out a ukulele and started singing about the toxic gossip train. And you say you have the ability to take on board criticism. Here's one. I'm 2 minutes into your video and you still haven't said sorry yet. To the relevant parties. The rest of your video should just be dead air, ambient noise, nothing more. But apparently, you really do have a compulsion to just say things.
And I guess one of the main things I wanted to talk about here is that, like, when you do anything in a very public way that it isn't received particularly well, people are going to do 2 things, which is, like, ascribe a motive for why you did that thing, and also wildly speculate about yourself, to put attributes onto you.
I see what we're doing here. That's clever. Almost as clever as trying to make an authentic apology video with a dozen jump cuts at the very least, and an equal number of times for the word like being used. I don't have to ascribe behavioral traits because I don't need to point out how disingenuous you are. I don't have to appear smarmy or arrogant to drive home the point that you are that, because your words are doing it. You are deflecting. You are trying to make it seem like nobody can respond to you because you've thought about it, and now present it as if people using it against you are null and void. So you took criticism on board and then decided to find a way to negate it by saying, but if you criticize this, and this, then your opinion is invalid.
That often aren't true. And, I definitely am guilty of doing that in the past, even in the Bad Conservative Horror Movie video. So I kind of wanted to talk more about me here than other people, which is something I don't really do all that much. One of the biggest things that has kind of always surprised me, my whole, career on YouTube, is people thinking that I hate Christians.
I don't believe you hate Christians per se. I believe you believe, so yes, I'm ascribing something here, that they are an easier target for you to go after because it is more acceptable to do so in westernized nations. where if you attack other faiths, some are more volatile than others. It can't be denied that is true.
And I don't hate religious people at all. I myself am a Methodist, and I have gone to annual conference with the Methodists for the past, I think, 4 years because I have an invested interest in how the church is dealing with LGBT members, which is an ongoing thing with the Methodists. I don't hate Christians at all.
I don't care what your faith is. I really don't. What you dub criticism, because the amount of it you produce can often cross the line between what is and is not criticism. What is or is not criticism based on the frequency of the criticism can then cross a line from criticism to just hate. Now, you being a Methodist doesn't really change that. You going to conferences doesn't change it. I still don't care, not just because it's faith and that means nothing to me, but because we've yet to get to your apology.
I can be very critical of Christians. I don't like evangelicals. I don't like proselytizers. And usually if I'm being critical of religious people, it's because they're using the religion as part of their online brand. And if you're like mixing money or your business with your religion, that is almost certainly like a perversion of whatever your religion is teaching.
Oh, the temptation to insert some cults into this is overwhelming. Additionally, you having a purity test, a gatekeepery mentality towards your faith, shows an intolerance towards differing perspectives of your faith because you seem to be of the mind that only your interpretation is the correct one. This mentality, by the way, is where many wars exist. It's unhealthy, and still not the sodding apology.
You know, I don't want to get into anything. I'm not trying to like double down here with what I'm saying in this. I'm not trying to like critique people. I'm just trying to talk about where I come from with things. Because I'm realizing like a big issue with my writing is saying something and just assuming that people understand what I mean, instead of actually trying to explain my point more, because I cover a lot of points in videos, and sometimes I'm guilty of hitting a point really quick and then moving on.
So far you have managed to further your credentials in the art of following the pattern and the blueprint of a YouTube apology by desperately having to explain every unnecessary point that has to exist. So far you have said nothing of substance that could be considered clearing the air unless it is clearing the air in your head, because you have to get out there points that don't need to be made. And the only reason you made this channel to make this video is because if you put this on your main channel, it would have gotten so much negativity, and you know it. You still have a fan base, which is impressive. Undeserved as well, I might add. But some people just simp because they don't understand, which seems to coincide handily with the point you just made.
Especially because I kind of am also guilty of making a lot of my work assuming wrongly that people are familiar with my past and my like work as well.
In truth, I do not care about your past, and I don't really care for much of your work. But that's just me. Your past is irrelevant because you make documentary videos. To make a documentary video means to remove yourself from the conversation. You made a bad video, and that video is in bad faith, badly researched, your criticisms were not sound. Quite frankly, you then showed what you really are. Your background became redundant at that point.
I kind of make every video, or did make every video, as a sequel to all of my previous work. And that kind of came up twice with the Bad Conservative Horror Movie video. One was an offhanded mention to Lovecraft that I talked about, where people are like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, and you know, like, because I had made like a 2-hour video about Lovecraft in the past, I felt like I could just make an offhanded, like, quick one-sentence reference to Lovecraft and it not be a big deal, and not explain it. You know what I mean? Because I just assumed people will get what I'm talking about because of that video.
You may well have seen comments referencing that, sure, but I can promise they were not the majority of the comments on that video. It's interesting what you've chosen to hyper-focus on, though. As someone who's quite fond of H.P. Lovecraft, Avatar derived from Cthulhu after all, I find this quite an interesting distraction, or point to bring up. The unnecessary need to explain your own little in-jokes that your community get is redundant in the context of clearing the air. You give off a vibe of smug mode in perpetuity, but it is smug mode undeserved.
And another big one that came with is when I talked about race in Appalachia. A lot of people weirdly thought that I was northern or not from Appalachia. People were saying like, you know, Appalachia sends its regards and shit like that. But like, You know, I've lived in the Appalachian Mountains basically my whole life. And I made like a 2+ hour video explaining my complicated views of the American South with the Joanne Denton video, where I talked about how like I love North Carolina and how I've lived here my entire life and how much of an impact this place has had on me.
I didn't realize Appalachia made hipsters, but now I know. I appreciate the knowledge. I'll be sure once I take power of this planet, you go first.
But also to pretend that the South doesn't have a major problem with racism is like kind of insane. You know, and I talk in that video about like the heavy Klan presence in areas of North Carolina. I talk about casual social racism and stuff like that. So like, I felt like I was okay to make a 1-sentence like throwaway thing because I'd already explained my position on that in the past.
Again, who cares? You made your little in-joke, your audience got that part. But of course, 1 sentence is what people hyper-focused on, and by extension, you. Half of that is true. The part that isn't true is the part where people obsessed over it. Over 1 sentence. I can imagine a few comments were left behind, of course. But you're the one hyper-focusing on that, again as a distraction and deflection. You're trying to explain yourself in such a way that it makes it seem like you really haven't learnt any. Your inability to grasp this is why this video sucks. Because you are genuinely so full of yourself, you believe you have to explain every minute detail like a YouTube apology to justify yourself. But these problems exist in this location. Anyone who denies it is stupid, of course. That's your mentality.
I don't hate Appalachians. I live here.
So fun little thing. You can still live in a place and hate the people there. You can live there and hate the location. You can claim one and the other are different, right? You live there, but you don't hate the people. Evidence of your dislike, though, is in your own content. I'm sure you will fob this off as criticisms, by the way. Yes, I'm very much aware you've done it with the Christian thing already.
And you know, there was also a lot of criticism saying that, like, I didn't handle the situation gracefully. Which I didn't. But also I'd like to see anybody that would. You know, things got really intense there. My entire town a few weeks ago was basically destroyed from the hurricane. And like there were like tweets still 5 months later saying, well, at least In Praise of Shadows probably died in that. You know.
Who cares what people tweeted? Seriously, who cares what people tweeted? You're always going to have negativity in your life now. There's no avoiding it for you regardless of the obvious humanitarian issues concerning the hurricane. I don't care because it's not relevant.
Things were really, really hot and uncomfortable. You didn't see the best side of me in that. And that's all that I can say is, it was a bad day for me. It was a bad period for me. You know, I was kind of made into this, like, cartoon character where I am impossible to get along with people who are on the right, which is actually not true at all.
You're not about to suggest that you have a conservative friend now, are you? It's up there with saying, I'm not racist because I have a black friend. I don't hate all female musicians because I like this one band with this one female instrumental player, right? This ballpark of, I have one. Therefore, I am not it.
I know this sounds like made up, but the guy that I hired to work on the set with me for the John Waters video was wearing a Make America Great Again hat like the entire time we were working. But he does a good job. And that's just the realities of living in the American South.
Oh, so you did do the I can't be a racist because I have a black friend thing. Okay. How quaint and original. I'm so proud of you. When you go and collect your state welfare, don't forget to collect your achievement unlocked.
I am not this insane person who, like, it's impossible to get along with.
Based on how you handled the situation 4 months ago, I would beg to differ. I also think, so by all means discard this if you wish, that you believe yourself smarter than you really are.
So, yeah. And with the Appalachian thing came an added commentary that I was kind of surprised about, where a lot of people said that I hate poor people, or I look down on people, that I, like, hate lower income individuals, which, like, I'm a lower income individual in Appalachia. Like, I don't hate anybody like that.
I know you're trying your best to seem relatable. It's why you are assigning yourselves people that share opposing views and connecting yourself with faith and with now poverty. But you can still be poor and look down on others, especially if your views beyond poverty do not align with each other. It is a behavioural trait, and it is quite normal amongst the filthy muggles to look down on fellow mud dwellers.
I don't hate anybody at all. I think that everybody should have their needs met no matter what they believe. You know, as far as like reviews are concerned, I am gay, and with that comes like a certain level of snobbery with like the arts and stuff like that. But because I like have high expectations of works of art does not mean that I hate poor people. Okay, I don't think that certain people should be in power. I don't think that certain people should have social power.
That might well be where you fall off a bit. Everyone should be entitled to try. To take power from others is a dangerous mentality to have, or to make sure they don't have power is a dangerous mentality to have. If a crime is committed, there is an argument there, because you have ignored the rules of the land. Therefore, you have freedoms taken from you for a time. But that then opens up Pandora's box, which is, much like everything else so far, you deflecting 101, and still falling handily in line within the YouTube apology space of not actually answering for what you've done. Additionally, I don't care about your snobbery towards art. I really don't.
And in that, I kind of want to get into the conservative video itself. Okay, so in the like hating poor people thing, apparently I also don't like normal guys. And like the thing that's kind of funny about that is that like kind of this whole situation came about because I was a normal guy. So like I'm notoriously difficult to get a hold of.
Who cares if you're difficult to get hold of or not? Who cares? Really. The conservative video was poorly put together. It really was. You were again trying to make something all about yourself, and again hyper-focusing on the wrong aspect. You're showing a complete lacking in understanding. You can be normal and still look down on others. We've already covered this with poor people, which you yourself believe yourself to be. Would I be right to surmise you chose the outdoors to make it seem like you're more in tune with nature and an outdoorsy type? This trite tactic of relatable is a bit tragic.
And that's because I'm not really online at all. I don't tweet. I genuinely don't spend much time on Twitter at all. I don't have any other social media. Before this, I was getting on Discord like once every like 6 months. For the most part, I'm not friends with other online content creators.
Okay, so there are a couple points here. First of all, you are clearly online a fair bit because you hyper-focused on the wrong comments. You did that in the first part of this video. The second part, about not getting on with other creators. I can believe that, because you yourself have admitted you're notoriously difficult to get along with. Or was it the other way around? Still, I can believe that to be true.
I probably watch in between 3 and 5 YouTube videos a month. And that is not like a dig at other YouTubers. That's not saying that they don't make excellent work, because there's a lot of great work on YouTube. But like, it comes to like this thing where like, back when I used to make comics, I would draw comics all day. And the last thing I'd want to do when I finished drawing for 10 hours would be to like, pick up comics and read them before I went to bed. You know, like...
Is anyone else counting the likes? And when they're doing so, not realizing what he's actually saying at the same time? Yeah, me neither. So you derive a relatable point of drawing comics all day and not wanting to read comics. The same applies to your content. This would be true if you were a more active creator, but you're not. So it's a load of bollocks really, isn't it?
I didn't want my entire existence to be comics. I wanted inspiration from everywhere in my life. And so I used to watch a lot of YouTube, like back before I was a YouTuber. But then I started making videos, and you know, I make videos all day long, and I don't want to like turn around and then like watch more YouTube videos. So like when I say I don't watch like a lot of YouTube, it's not to put down other creators, but just to try and to explain how this situation happened.
Again, you have another problem. The problem is the presentation and execution of the content. The intent may be one thing according to you, but the execution would indicate you're lying, straight up. Additionally, I don't really care about this either. You've still not apologized, which could well be argued to be the most important part of this. I'm starting to think that while you've acknowledged this video falls within the bracket of a YouTube apology, you're actually doing a YouTube apology, where the only sorries are aimed at yourself and those that understood your in-jokes that may have been caught up defending you, as opposed to who you should be apologizing to.
Because the why is kind of, you know, self-apparent. And so when you're not an online person, but you feel compelled to write a piece about online culture, looking at it from a distance, trying to figure out what is real, it's a different kind of research. And I totally was not the guy to do that job.
I see we're getting somewhere now, where you are conceding you were ill-prepared, you didn't practice, and you failed to perform to articulate your point as well as you could have. Apparently you were trying to be H-Bomber Guy light. Okay, well congratulations for being a massive smeghead. Sorry, an Appalachian smeghead.
I felt like it was important. I felt like nobody else would do it, and I knew that the reaction was not going to be good. I knew it was going to be bad.
So why bother making the video if you knew it wasn't going to be good in the first place? Oh, that's right, because stoking the flames within other communities drums up additional interest in your content, which can, short-term, increase monetary gains and relevancy. Sorry if I jumped the gun there. It does make you seem a little disingenuous, doesn't it now?
So, kind of most of my mistakes and problems came from that, though. Because, like, I didn't know who Sneeko was before I made that video. And I didn't really know who he was when I posted that video. And so while it's like really serious, and I admit that, and I am sorry, I took the video down like immediately because I realized the video had major problems. But like, it also at the same time, in retrospect, is a little bit funny that I tried to be like, this guy's the f***ing worst. At least, you know, according to Hitler.
Part of me believes one of the main reasons you made these videos was to do the whole relevancy thing, but also because you thought they haven't had a video done on them yet, so it's right I do one to fill that gap. Perhaps you should have stuck to your lane, because your lane of content kept you out of most of the trouble you got into. I say most, not all of it. You still dig holes. Right now, this video is on par with that of Just a Robot trying to explain his nonsense on Chud Logic's channel. Equally tragic, embarrassing, and not really providing any answers of substance beyond, oh, I've just been stupid.
And like, you know, I f***ed it. I f***ed it pretty bad. And there's not really a lot else I can say about it. You know, what's done is done, I can't take it back. But also, ultimately, that's like what a whole section of YouTube is about. I may have done that really badly, but like, there are channels that just exist just to talk shit about people like all the time.
So, that doesn't mean those channels that do that are in the wrong for what they say on the subject they cover. That's the point. It's called integrity. You compromised yours by getting many things wrong. You introduced the subject of SA. You made the claims, and it went down like a lump of lead. You say you removed the video immediately upon realizing your errors. No, you removed it because the like-to-dislike was vehemently against you, because you got all those comments, which you in turn apparently have hyper-focused on to drive home some additional points. You may try and laugh about this, but this all comes from you not being able to fathom how you can be wrong, truly.
And I don't want to be that guy. I'm not trying to be that guy. I am not trying to escalate the situation. I'm just trying to describe my perspective of how this happened. Because at the end of the day, everything's fine. You know, I f***ed up. But also, nobody that I mentioned in that video was harmed at all.
That is not the point. The point is, you attempted to poison the well. You attempted to harm. When you come from a place of bad faith, bad research, bad optics, and you try and produce something in the ballpark you produced it in, the purpose was solely to poison the well, to harm them and sully their name so others will not go to them, discredit them in some manner. You can laugh that off by saying, oh, well, no one was, actually put in danger. That's not the point. If you don't get that, then you are still too full of yourself to understand accountability.
You know, everybody's doing fine, and that's kind of like how that genre of YouTube works anyways. The whole drama machine ultimately just exists for money. And I shouldn't have been a part of that. I shouldn't have contributed to that.
All content produced to YouTube that is on a channel that is monetized exists to make money on YouTube. You are no exception. But you are a bit of a purity tester because you don't like that certain types of content makes money. We know this because of what you just said. Who cares how people make their bread, right? As long as they can feed themselves and anyone they are responsible for. Of course, you should have a job on the side to keep your feet grounded. You are a smeghead for thinking this way, and you don't regret anything you've done, by the way. That much is obvious in all that we've gone through so far.
Felt like there were important points to make. I did not word them well. I had no f***ing chill. I could have done pretty much everything in that better, but you live and learn. You know, I don't know what else to say, other than I will do better, and I kind of want to get into, like, personal criticisms against myself now.
You could say, I'm sorry to all the people you wrong. That would be good. And the last part about personal criticisms. That's pretty much everything you've done so far, where you've made everything about yourself to make yourself seem relatable and to equally criticize yourself, but not. It's all been very self-aggrandizing, don't you think? You must have been stroking your ego madly before you started recording, and perhaps between every single jump cut and every single time you said line.
So, like, with that video, there was a lot of comparison to the Dan Olsen video that came out soon after mine and the H-Bomber Guy plagiarism video. There was a lot of, like, comparing the three of us, and I think, like, the only commonality between those three videos is YouTubers talking about YouTubers, with two of them being good videos and one of them being, like, a really bad video. But people were ascribing, like, saying that I was jealous, and that's why I was making that video.
I can't be arsed with your video anymore. I just wanted to get to a point that featured H-Bomber Guy. Just because you are right, the three of you did release videos around the same time, covering a similar theme. The argument of whether any were good is up for debate. In truth, I don't really care. There are some errors in all three of them. If you can't see them, that's quite alright. It's subjective. As far as I'm concerned, this clearing the air video, your final subject, or say on the subject, is a load of bull. And you know it. You know it comes from a place of bad faith, and the only time you ever acknowledge, even in this part, any wrongdoings on your part, you then use to fluff your own ego, either to make yourself seem more relatable, or as if you are removed from it entirely. At the start, you started by pointing out how people will try and label you and pigeonhole you, so I guess everything I've done so far is that then, right? Which means my opinion is null and void.